Well, hello again. Welcome back to Orphic Koans Teriyaki tacos. My name is Dennis Holt, and this is the third, what are we calling it, Morgan?
I guess
part. No.
Volume.
Volume, that's right. This is volume 3, and we hope that you've seen volumes 1 and 2. I haven't yet seen volume 2, but that's okay. I've seen volume 1, and it was a lot of fun. And I want to thank our production supervisor, Morgan McGinnis, who is once again behind the camera. I'm here today on May 8th, 2008, with my friends Anita Chundak, also known as Sar Rosal, and my friend George Larimore, he's also known as George. And we are here to celebrate the 70th anniversary of the birth of the Pulitzer Prize winning poet Gary Snyder, and I've brought with me, I have a stack here of 6 of his books as the center point. And here is a cordon d'or that I've added to celebrate the fact that his publication. This is not all. I think he's got, what, 25 books by now, something like that. We'll get to some of these later. And I've prepared a kind of a mandala of books by associates of his, some of whom were his very close friends, including Philip Whalen, the former abbot of the Hartford Zen Center, and so on, who was a great friend of Snyder. One of his earlier generation mentors, Kenneth Rexroth, who I refer to as the father of the West Coast beat generation, or in other words, the West Coast father of the beat generation. We also have here good old Jack Kerouac in the form of his novel Big Sur. Now this is written after Gary Snyder went off to Japan, and so he doesn't figure too highly in this book. The previous book it was mostly about Gary Snyder, where he was called Jaffe Ryder, is Kerouac's The Dharma Bums. And unfortunately, fortunately, all of the local copies in the library are checked out, and that's a good thing. People are reading The Dharma Bums right now as we speak. I mean, they got to check that. And finally, Edward Dorn is here. Not one of the beats in the usual sense, but certainly a contemporary of these guys. And we're going to try to share some poems from all of these people in the next 25 minutes or so. And finally, the only other living poet besides Snyder among this group, Wendell Berry. And I think it's very important. We have recommended Berry to you before in the, let's see, where does that go? Anyway, I have a placard here somewhere where we recommend his book in, what's it called? In the Presence of Fear. And I want to recommend that again. Okay, you can look at his book. Wendell Berry is one of our most important living writers, along with Gary Snyder. Well, I'm going to turn it over to George first, if that's okay, George, to talk about Gary Snyder was born in 1930 and has been a very active proponent of a green attitude toward the planet, and I consider him one of the principal pathfinders along the way toward a revisionist sense of who we are on this planet. I mean, it's crazy that people haven't gotten this picture a little more clearly yet. And George, of course, here not only embodies and typifies the attitude I'm talking about, but he has met Gary Snyder and also read the book The Dharma Bums, in which Snyder is portrayed as that knapsack revolutionary, Buddhist free thinker, and so on.
To running around naked.
There we go. Let's turn over to George.
And
speak up, George.
In the book, I think of him as Jaffe Ryder because I don't know him very well otherwise. But if that is his real character, I expected Kerouac as Jaffe Ryder. Some slightly altered facts and life experience and his own history. He was a wild and crazy guy before he settled down and closed up his little shack in Marin County with the orange crate and the straw mat. The place that Kerouac imagined. He was so fond of this simple lifestyle that Gary Snyder was. No possessions, very, very simple. Jack, of course, was not like that.
But he tried to adopt that that lifestyle for a while. Kerouac did. He had a cabin up in Marin County that Snyder went to visit, and he adopted that mode for a while. Snyder, in turn, went off at the end of the Dharma Bums. He's depicted as going off on a freighter to Japan to involve himself in the real serious Zen Buddhist practice. And then in approximately 1970, he comes back to the United States with a Japanese wife and settles where he still lives now, in Nevada County, California, at a place called Kit Kit Dizzy, his own homestead named after some of the local vegetation there. And much of the vision that was portrayed in the Dharma Bums of a rucksack revolution and Buddhist poets settling in small places in the hills, in small cabins and so on, much of that has come to fruition. In fact, I have as a very good friend one of Snyder's former students and acolytes, disciples, whatever metaphorical term you might want to use. Will Staple lives right up there within walking distance of Gary Snyder in Nevada County up on North San Juan Ridge. And Will Staple has become a pretty good friend of mine. We were contemporaries during the free speech movement at Berkeley in 1964. We're still contemporaries, but we were both active in that movement. I'd like to share with you something by Will Staple right now to begin reading. This is, I think, fairly significant and apropos to what we're doing here. Snyder is a very strong advocate for an amplified understanding of the trickster character coyote in the mythic structures of the Western Native Americans, Western United States Native Americans, and down into Mexico and so on. So I wanted to make sure to read something having to do with coyote here today. And what I'm going to read is an excerpt from an essay by Snyder called The Incredible Survival of Coyote, which is in this book, The Old Ways, one of the essays there. And this is some fragments from a sequence about coyote by Will Staple. And it's pretty short, but I think it's kind of a good place to start here. Here's Will Staple. And Will Staple's a man who invented the lemma, "Poetry Heals," and turned it into a bumper sticker, and I have one on the back of my car. So here it says, this is Snyder talking about coyote, and then we segue into the poem by Staple. Yet the always traveling, always lustful, breaker of limits side of the trickster could destroy any human poet who got locked into it. The trickster is a delightful literary conceit, but an unpredictable ally, dangerous and very potent. For those who can handle such a helper, the power of being a healer may be gained. Here's Will Staple. You're the same as Coyote when you forget who you are. That's all he ever did. And then Snyder, which is why in one of my own poems I say, beasts have the Buddha nature, all but Coyote, the moo, no, of the shapeshifter, sets us free. And yet, in the giving up, hanging on, there's another price that's paid. Will Staple again. Yes, I am an old coyote, not yet well into my useless years. Oh, I fooled them, wearing clothes, standing upright, talking like a man. I look over behind me and move pretty fast for an old-timer, no longer a coy pup. Not that I've changed my ways, the mind is on fire, red-eyed, burning. Whatever I had got me this far. This is what's left of what there was, a survivor.